Chapter 1. The Novice. You slowly open your eyes in a narrow, underground chamber with a low, arched ceiling, lit only by a dim oil lamp on the stone floor. The air reeks of cold dampness, ancient parchment, and melted sealing wax. Your wrists are bound with a thin silk ribbon symbolizing absolute submission. A tall, hooded figure stands before you, holding a thick, leather-bound book embossed with the owl of Minerva, the oath. You swear absolute secrecy, obedience to those above, and dedication to fighting ignorance. You are 22, a university student, recruited by your philosophy professor, who spent months watching your grades, your debates, your loneliness. He told you a closed society exists that wants to change the world through pure reason. At the novice level, they tell you nothing. No names, no faces, no structure, no goals. You read assigned books, write essays, report your thoughts to a mentor who compiles a detailed psychological dossier on you. The feeling of being chosen floods your brain like a drug. For the first time, someone says you are special, that your intellect deserves more than the gray crowd. You walk through university corridors, looking at classmates with different eyes. They do not know, but you know. But you have surrendered control of your thinking to a person you have known for months, took an oath without reading the charter, swore to hide secrets you do not yet understand. 3 months pass, and your mentor places two envelopes before you in a dark library. The first envelope. 3 names of classmates the order wants you to recruit by befriending them and earning their trust. The second envelope. A list of psychological reconnaissance questions. You must ask each of them to compile dossiers on living people. Your first crossroads. Write in the comments, recruit or refuse. Chapter 2. The Minerval. A tall man in a beige trench coat rises from behind a book-covered table in a dark library corner, dusting off an antique globe. On his shoulder sits a snail in a tiny felt hat, crawling along the spine of an open folio and leaving a glistening trail on yellowed pages. "Welcome to the Advanced Cult Recruitment Manual, kid," Jimmy says hoarsely, leaning against a dusty bookshelf. "What happened to you is called love bombing. They told you that you are a genius, chosen, unappreciated by the world, but valued by them. The classic opening move of every cult, sect, and terrorist cell on the planet. You have been admitted to the second level, the Minerval, and they lead you up a stone staircase to a grand hall with high ceilings where dozens of candles burn in heavy bronze candelabras. 12 robed figures sit around a long oak table covered in maps, blueprints, and handwritten documents. The owl of Minerva, the unfinished pyramid, the all-seeing eye. They explain the simplest philosophy. The order fights religious superstition, monarchic despotism, and the suppression of free thought. Your weekly meetings become an elite philosophy club discussing Kant, Voltaire, and Rousseau with banned treatises found in no public library, but they still do not tell you who leads the order. You see only your lodge, only your circle, and questions are shut down softly but categorically. Chapter 3. Illuminatis, Minor. A year passes and they promote you to the 3rd level, Illuminatis, Minor. Your first real duty is surveillance. A leather notebook with a lock and a personal cipher. You compile monthly reports on university moods, which professors criticize the church, which students display free thinking, who leans toward rebellion. You become the eyes and ears of the order among your own friends, conducting intelligence work at cafeteria tables. Your empathy begins to atrophy as every person around you transforms into an object of observation justified by a higher purpose. You discover your closest university friend is also an Illuminatus. You were both compiling reports on each other while sitting at the same table discussing homework. Jimmy stands by a tall library window watching the night rain while the snail slides down his sleeve, navigating the wet buttons of his trench coat. Bentham's Panopticon. The detective states, a prison where inmates cannot see the warden but know he could be watching, so they police themselves. Chapter 4. The Apprentice. You leave the nursery and enter the Masonic degrees, the apprentice level, where rituals grow complex and heavy. A stone altar in a mansion basement bearing a compass, a square, a hammer, and a rough, uncut stone, surrounded by silk banners embroidered with columns, ladders, stars, and eyes. The rough stone is you at the start, crude and unrefined, to be shaped by hammer and chisel into a perfect piece for the great temple of a new society. For the first time, they call you brother and teach you the secret handshake, passwords, and distress signals. If a brother gives the sign, you must drop everything and help. But brotherhood only works upward. Those below cannot know your secrets. Those above are not obligated to help. And you begin to understand this is a corporation with a rigid vertical of power. Chapter 5. The fifth level. The fellow you decode encrypted correspondence between lodges and study alchemical symbolism that is actually a coded political language. Turning lead into gold means transforming ignorant society into enlightened society. The Philosopher's Stone is an education system that cleanses minds of prejudice. You walk through museums, spotting hidden Masonic messages in Renaissance paintings, feeling you hold a key that opens invisible doors, but intellectual superiority cuts into real relationships. You grow contemptuous of ordinary people, lose empathy, and replace it with arrogance as the order becomes your only family. Your former classmate, now a journalist investigating secret societies at universities, asks you directly if you belong to one. Your second crossroads. Write in the comments, tell the truth or lie. Chapter 6. The Master. Jimmy sits in a dusty archive, sorting yellowed letters while the snail crawls along a wax-sealed envelope gleaming in candlelight. Cognitive dissonance. The detective muses. You consider yourself a fighter for truth while systematically lying to everyone you love, and your brain convinces you that lying for a great cause is not lying but strategy. The sixth level. The Master. The turning point, where student becomes teacher, conducting initiation rituals and compiling psychological dossiers on your own novices. The circle is complete. You sit in a dark room, wearing a hooded robe, speaking the oath to a novice kneeling before you, using the same love-bombing techniques that were once used on you. One of your novices has started telling friends about the gatherings the senior brothers order you to orchestrate his social destruction at the university. To protect the order. Your third crossroads. Write in the comments. Destroy his reputation or protect the novice. Chapter 7. Illuminatus Major. The seventh level, Illuminatus Major, the Scottish Knight. From books and rituals, you step into real politics. A map of the order's influence. Red circles mark positions held by brothers, judges, advisors, censors. Blue circles mark positions that need filling across universities. courts, publishing houses, and financial offices. This is not a philosophy club. This is a network that methodically plants its people into the backbone of the state. You understand that every surveillance report you ever wrote from the first level ended up in a massive database now used for blackmail, pressure, and recruitment. You finally see the entire machine, and you are one of its gears. Chapter 8. Illuminati. Jimmy stands before a massive wall map, hands behind his back, coat dusted with archive powder, while the Snail surveys territories from atop a red-flagged pin. The slippery slope effect. Nobody told you on the first level that you would be blackmailing judges 10 years later. Each step seemed like a logical continuation. Each inch felt normal. The 8th level Illuminatus Dirigans. The director, you command an entire region with lodges, brothers, and informant networks in local government. You appoint brothers to key city positions. The judge, who was your novice 5 years ago now, makes decisions. You approved. Absolute paranoia consumes you because you know the order spies on its own members. You built that system yourself, and now you are locked inside your own Panopticon. The local duke prepares a decree to tighten censorship and shut down printing houses belonging to brothers. You have damning financial fraud evidence on his personal secretary. Your 4th crossroads. Write in the comments, use the blackmail or persuade with words. Chapter 9. The Priest. The 9th level. The Priest. The class of mysteries, where rational knowledge gives way to the order's secret doctrine. A windowless round chamber, draped in dark red velvet with a mosaic pentagram on the floor. Not satanic, but ancient Pythagorean harmony. A throne-like chair, with Ouroboros serpents carved into the armrests. The air thick with myrrh and sandalwood. The silver clasp. The core doctrine. All existing religions are artificial constructs for mass control, and the priest must infiltrate church structures to replace faith with reason from within, generation by generation. You see the architecture of the world as only a handful of people see it, mechanisms of control that humanity accepts as the natural order. But you have deconstructed every religion, ideology, and value system down to bare mechanics. And nothing sacred remains. You see crying churchgoers as comfort mechanisms and lovers as oxytocin biochemistry. Chapter 10. The 10th level Prince Regent. You enter the council that determines strategy for decades, drafting reform plans for ministers, laws, books, and journalists. You see the world as a chessboard, planning 20 years ahead, watching puzzle pieces fall into place as your university reforms produce the first enlightened graduates. But you have become the despot you once fought, deciding for millions how to live, what to read, what to believe, convinced that the masses cannot decide for themselves. Jimmy sits on a stone altar's edge, legs dangling, while the snail on an open folio studies a pyramid diagram, as if looking for its own place in the hierarchy. The Dunning-Kruger effect in reverse. At the top you are so confident that you lose the ability to admit error, and the system has no mechanism for self-correction. A report on a regional director, your longtime friend and brother, who used order resources for personal enrichment and sold intelligence to a foreign agency. The council demands his total destruction, social, financial, and reputational. Your 5th crossroads. Write in the comments. Destroy your friend or let him escape. Chapter 11. The Magus. The 11th level. the Magus, one of 4 or 5 people on Earth who know the Order's full structure from top to bottom. The final philosophy is terrifyingly simple. Every control system on the planet was created by small groups who understood crowd psychology first, and the Order wants to replace them with reason. But replacing control requires building even more effective control. You are not a liberator. You are building a new cage with more comfortable bars. You think in centuries, sacrificing one life for a slightly less cruel world 100 years from now. But you have stopped seeing people as people. The population is a statistical mass discussed over coffee. Chapter 12. The King, the 12th level Rex. The King, the summit of formal hierarchy, where you define the coordinate system in which decisions are made. You are invisible. No one from the lower 9 levels will ever know your face. You are a myth, an idea, an empty space at the top of the pyramid. Absolute anonymous power to change society with a single encrypted letter, free from all consequences. Complete existential loneliness. You cannot speak to anyone as an equal, cannot tell your story to a living soul, and your empire will outlive you, but never remember you. Chapter 13. The Architect of Order. Jimmy stands on the rooftop of a nighttime mansion, leaning against a stone balustrade as wind whips his beige trench coat, with the Snail pressed tight against his collar, sheltering from cold gusts. Below stretches a sleeping city, thousands of flickering lights, each hiding a person who has no idea someone stands on this roof. The all-seeing eye, Adam. Weishaupt started as a penniless professor wanting justice, and 10 years later, his organization was an exact replica of the despotism he swore to destroy. A hammer remains a hammer in any hands. The 13th level, the Architect of Order. This level appears in no charter because the one who stands here needs no titles. The monstrous paradox. The entire order rests on a single idea that people are too stupid to govern themselves. The pyramid is built on contempt for the very people it claims to save. A single encrypted letter on the table. The order to begin final infiltration into the government of the largest European power. Your 6th and final crossroads. Write in the comments, sign the order, or burn the letter. Jimmy's Archives. Jimmy and the Snail stand in the round, windowless chamber beneath the vaulted ceiling, as the detective slowly turns pages of a giant folio on the stone altar. The Snail sits on the silver clasp, watching the last candles flame. The famous problem of Plato: who should govern? The people who do not understand what is best for them, or the elite who think they do. 13 levels where idealism became cynicism. Freedom fighters built prisons, and saviors learned to despise those they save. Each level gave knowledge, but took humanity. And at the top you stand with full understanding and an absolutely empty heart. The novice situation. Love bombing, a technique where the target is surrounded by excessive praise and exclusivity to create emotional dependency before revealing true goals. Used in cults, sects, and aggressive marketing pyramids. The Illuminatus minor situation. Bentham's Panopticon, a prison where one guard observes all inmates who cannot tell if they are watched, so they police themselves. Now applied in corporate monitoring and social media surveillance. The master situation. Cognitive dissonance, psychological discomfort from holding to contradictory beliefs, described by Leon Festinger in 1957. where the brain justifies lies as acceptable tools for a higher cause, leading to gradual moral degradation. The director's situation, the slippery slope effect, gradual agreement to increasingly radical actions, each seeming like a logical next step, described in Stanley Milgram's experiments, the precise mechanism of radicalization. The architect situation, the enlightened dictator paradox, known since Plato's philosopher Kings, where absolute power to improve society inevitably creates tyranny because it eliminates the feedback mechanism needed to correct errors.
Author's note: love bombing. Every time a new boss says you are the best specialist on day one, ask yourself if they have actually seen your work. Because love that rains down for free is never a gift but an investment with a bill coming due. The Panopticon. If you live in one right now, deleting messages that might be misinterpreted, staying silent in meetings because someone might report to management, filtering thoughts before posting on social media, cognitive dissonance. You hate your job but do not quit. You value honesty but lie for convenience. And your brain builds elaborate logical castles every day to justify what you do. The slippery slope: you started with a petty act of cowardice at work that seemed normal, then stayed silent, then threw someone under the bus yourself. And if someone showed you the endpoint on day one, you would have walked out. The enlightened dictator paradox: the smart boss convinced they know best, the parent controlling every step of an adult child, the partner deciding for two because they are more rational, all believing they act for the greater good while never considering they might be wrong. The scariest thing about 13 levels is not rituals or world domination, it is that every one of us climbs our own version of this staircase every day, starting with idealism and gradually becoming what we swore we would never resemble. And the only difference is which step we stop at and say enough, I am not going any further. The link to our Discord server is always on the main channel page. YouTube does not like links in descriptions. Subscribe, hit the bell, and check the community tab for new Detective Jimmy investigations. This has been the Your Life as channel and Detective Jimmy.